What's going on, everybody? Shiraz Ahmed here, and today we're going to be talking about a topic you've probably seen all over the news. Now, I even did a video about this a few months ago. We're actually talking about inflation, of course. Now, most of the news about high inflation is negative, although there are a couple positive effects of inflation, which we're actually planning to discuss in today's video, so stay tuned. All right, welcome back, everyone. And again, thank you for those of you who are subscribing and hitting the like button. I really do appreciate the support. Today's topic is inflation, but we're actually going to do things a little bit differently this time around. Now, everyone and every headline you read is worried about high inflation, and frankly, they have a right to be. Now, inflation is defined as a general increase in prices and a fall in the purchasing power of money. Now, I'm not trying to say that high inflation is a good thing. It's anything but. However, we want to look at a couple of what I would call the positive side effects of high inflation that could be considered to be good depending on your personal circumstances. Now, the first thing you should know is that a little bit of inflation is technically a good thing. In fact, the Bank of Canada's website says that it aims to keep inflation at the 2% midpoint of the 1 to 3% target range. Now, once you get past this range, most economists globally would agree that higher inflation can become a problem. So if high inflation is a problem, how can inflation be good for any individual? Well, the first thing that comes to mind is wages. Now, typically, high inflation means that, let's say, a $50,000 annual salary earned in 2023 isn't going to buy you the same amount of stuff as it did back in 2021. Now, this is true if your wages have not increased during that same time period. Now, if your pay has increased in excess of inflation, you're coming out ahead. If your pay has increased but not at the level of inflation, you're still losing purchasing power, but not as much as it would if your salary had not gone up at all. It's a pretty simple formula. Compare the percentage of inflation to the percent change in your salary over that same time period, and then you'll have, frankly, a good idea of where you stand. Now, here's another free tip. There's also something you should watch about your investments as well. If you're earning, let's say, 4%, but inflation is 10%, you're still losing purchasing power. All right, so another silver lining for people who hold debt, especially if the debt is at a fixed rate. Imagine, for instance, you're taking out a $1 million mortgage at a rate of 2%. Now, if inflation is 10%, that $1 million you borrowed is not worth the same at the end of the year. Now, if your salary were adjusted for inflation, let's say increasing by 10%, you'd find that you'd have more free cash flow to pay down your mortgage. Of course, this assumes that your salary keeps pace with inflation, and that's obviously not always the case. Now, some people may find that their salary increases even in excess of the rate of inflation, but ultimately it really depends. Now, the last silver lining can actually be a bit of a double-edged sword. It's social change. Extended periods of high inflation have literally brought down entire empires in the past. In the book, The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, historian Edward Gibbon lists inflation as a major reason for the decline and fall, ultimately, of the Western Roman Empire. Listen to this and tell me if this sounds familiar. Since the plague led to the widespread decimation of the Roman population, wages increased rapidly, much too rapidly. The result was a drastic increase in the prices of goods, which had never been witnessed in Rome. Inflation was only 1% in the first 2 centuries AD, but prices doubled after the plague. Much the same happened again in the 14th and 15th century in Europe. The bubonic plague strikes, population is reduced, wages and social rights of those remaining are improved in an effort to attract workers. Serfdom is all but abandoned in most of Western Europe, as peasants suddenly have the upper hand in the relationship between labor and capital. Now, Mark Twain once said that history doesn't repeat itself, but it often does rhyme. And I know we've seen a lot of social change over the last few years, but what other change do we think may still be coming? Now, thanks for watching yet another video. I really do appreciate the support from all of you who are hitting that like and subscribe button, as it really does help out the channel. If you have any topics or ideas that you'd like to see me cover, I'm going to put my contact information at the end of this video. Please feel free to reach out to me directly. And as always, please stay safe out there, you guys. All the best. Bye for now.